and we're back at the tavern for our weekly update. Jack and I have our drinks in hand. Hopefully you have your favorite drink. So let's get going. Jack?
First thing I want to do is, again, I want to thank my wife for spreading the word on Facebook about Meet at the Tavern. And even more than that, my sister Margaret is running the Facebook
Thank you, Margaret.
page. Yeah, she's got us up to, last I saw, I might be wrong, was 239 members on our Facebook. So let's hope we can start turning those members on Facebook into Meet at the Tavern listeners.
I want to get like the biggest group on Facebook. My goal's over 1 million people.
Yeah, I would like this grassroots to go to 1 million people on our Facebook, and I would like those folks to start listening to Meet at the Tavern, because we put a lot of work into this. My sister learned how to run a Facebook page when we said, "Ted, you're it." So she's been really posting a lot of good information on that Facebook, and she's been keeping on top of it. We're looking to get one more member to run the store for us, because we have a store. Sometimes we have a glitch with it.
Like right now, we got one.
Right. So I don't know where they're shipping this stuff from. It must be the canal over there off of Egypt.
The Suez Canal.
Yeah, the Suez Canal. It's all jammed up over there. So we appreciate the help. We appreciate the members on Facebook, and we would really appreciate the listening audience to Meet at the Tavern and get that word out. Maybe we can get some kind of a program to listen to it, have an interest, and realize what kind of work we're doing. And it's all about our terrific, wonderful United States Constitution, which is also our group name, United States Constitutional Group.
And hopefully we'll get them involved and form a group in their own area.
Grassroots, folks. Get it in your area. Get started. I mean, I love the posts I see, and it's a lot of information on there. There's a real lot of information on our webpage, USCG National 2021 at the GoDaddySites.com. Everything we talk about is on that webpage. Applications to join a group is on there. Listening to Meet at the Tavern is on there. Our Constitution is on there. Your state Constitution is on there. And every representative that's federally elected is on there. Dennis did a great job not knowing what he was doing that webpage. He put a lot of hours into it, a lot of hard work, and there is a ton of information. The Federalist Papers are on there. That is a huge book to read, and you should do it. He's got it 10 chapters at a time. They're called books because before they invented chapters, they called each one books.
Right. And that's an educational tool for not only us, but for you out there too. And when we talk about, Article 1 of Section 7A of the Constitution today, you can download it and follow along and keep up with us. It's because it's very important. It's very important for everybody.
Just one more note for you guys. You're going to hear my book flipping pages through again. I came to class unprepared. So it's still in my notebook.
Go ahead, Jack.
All right. For my thoughts on our opening podcast number 5, I just wanted to remind everybody that, we've been talking about the corruption with our government. Well, we also have another problem. We feel, everybody in this room feels, because just off to my left and just off to my right, my brother Mike to the left, my son Jack is on the right. We believe that there's a lot of corruption in today's press. And it's not just what they say, but more importantly, it's what they don't say. And that's the harder process to keep track of, what they do not say. And what got me thinking about that was, what did the mainstream press talk about with the China-USA meeting they had in Alaska? All right? So here's what I saw in the U.S. press. The opening remarks were scheduled for 4 minutes on each side. So the U.S. went to almost 6 minutes. They went over a little bit. So China went over half an hour on their opening statements. And the Chinese counterpart to our Secretary of State, what this guy said was unbelievable. What he said was, we thought it was going to be the end of the opening statements, but he had come back, our Secretary of State or one of our officials stated, don't bet against the United States. And that had China open up their book. And so their representative said, when I entered this room, I should have reminded the United States side of paying attention to its tone in our respective opening remarks. And then he continued an onslaught of insults to us. And we feel that China is feeling a shift in power in their favor. And this meeting with the United States in Alaska, on our own territory, was, I think they were trying to feel out their new role, that they feel that they're the power, that they're talking for power, not us, for the whole world to see and hear. And, we had an unnamed senior official of the White House in mainstream. Again, this is mainstream media telling us an unnamed senior official of the White House saying that you heard the arguments that we laid down to China. We are also going to argue those same statements in private, not just in public. Why would they feel that they had to say something like that at the end of that? That just tells me that even the press knew that the United States was weak at that meeting. Their opening was weak. Their argument was weak. And China had started out with the upper hand.
Yeah, we got to watch out for China because they're up and coming.
I don't think they're up and coming anymore. I think they're here and now.
Yeah. So I'm going to start out with a challenge to everybody. Major League Baseball and sports in general, myself, along with millions of Americans, have been sports fans for many, many years, ever since I can remember. Sports used to bring this country together. We used to have fun rivalries between friends and family for the teams we've loved. But like most of the people in this divided country, the American pastime has also become divided and political. Major League Baseball's decision to pull the All-Star game out of Georgia sends the wrong message to all us fans. I feel professional sports needs to stick to entertaining fans and stay out of the political arena. For those of you who don't follow politics, Colorado has very strict voting laws, a little bit stricter than Georgia. So it's really not about voting rights. It's about something deeper. It's like the big guys pushing the little guys around again. It's that bully on the playground always wanting to get his way.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys will follow. If you're listening to this program, you followed what happened in Georgia. They passed that voting law that we talked about on the last program in podcast number 4. And so this was their spanking back to Georgia. And MLB folded like a deck of cards. They were gone, see ya. They didn't care what businesses, small businesses, they hurt. Atlanta was about to get $100 million in revenue for small businesses, people working in the stadium and stuff like that. And they went on to congratulate people that think like us, congratulating the Masters for going there. Now, let me point out with the Masters. What the Masters happened, that was not the PGA. The PGA is part of NBC, and they would have been out of there in a heartbeat. But the Masters is so strong and privately owned. They had gotten one other time they tried to make the Masters fold, and that's when they wouldn't let any women in the club because it's the men's only. And they threatened to take all of their
sponsorships
out. And so the Masters said, "Go ahead, we'll do it ourselves." I think Cadillac was the only one that didn't. And that's why the Masters is not shown on the Golf Channel. It's shown on ESPN. Because, and to this day, they don't show it on the, because they're cancel culture. The Golf Channel is cancel culture, and the PGA is cancel culture because they're going to cancel the 2022 match that's over in Scotland because it's on former President Trump's golf course. So, like children, they're going to take their ball and go home.
Like I said, big bully pushing the little guy around on the playground. But 40% of businesses in Atlanta are minority owned. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars from each business being taken away. Like Jack said, $100 million being lost to that area. But 40% are minority. And as sports fans, and I'm pleading with everybody, stop watching sports altogether. They need us more than we need them. I haven't watched sports in 2 years. I don't think I've watched baseball in 4 years. But I challenge each and every one of you to stop watching sports. Turn off that TV. Send a message that we've had enough. Let's make them part of the cancel culture.
Yeah, I tell you what, turn off the TV anyway, because like we said in our previous podcasts and our other programs, it's an idiot box. All right? It's an idiot box, and you are better off. You want to know something? If you're into baseball, join a softball league. If you're into golf, join a group. Start hitting all these golf courses like we do down here in South Carolina.
Yeah, show your support.
Yeah, get 20 of your friends. So every Sunday, instead of watching the last match of golf, go out and play around the golf. You know what? It's better for you. You get to talk to people. Again, you get to be around your neighbors and friends, and you could talk about what's bothering you. You don't have to sit there and listen to how you should be ashamed of yourself because of whatever race, gender, creed, whatever you are, that you have to hold your head down because you make some money in life.
Yeah. So that brings us to our first segment. This has been a hot topic since the presidential election, and that's our right to vote. The Constitution gives us that right, but our politicians are making it harder and harder for all of us to do just that. They make it a racial issue, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I agree we need common sense voting laws. There's no doubt about that. We need to ensure voting is secure and fair to everyone, regardless of race. It should not come down to race at all, because you know what? We're all Americans. All of us are Americans.
I tell you the truth, Dennis. It's a problem because they are making it about race. They're making it about gender. They're making it about economics. They're making it about religion. They are making it about any topic that you can have two sides of the coin. Because if we're arguing about things that they're making up, they're making this up, sending it to us. Again, they are governing on emotions. They are not governing on facts. There are no facts in it. They're governing on it, and they're getting your emotions up, and everybody's biting at the bait.
Yeah, we've said that numerous times. They play on our emotions, and they do it well.
That's not good governing.
No, it's not. It's not good at all. Like I said, they want us divided. They want African Americans against whites. They want Asians against African Americans. As long as they create division, that is all they want. They want us at our throats. This way they know they can pass whatever they want and get voted every time.
Yeah, disorder in the streets helps them every time. Because the people that are paying for their campaigns are not us, really. We're giving some money. But, the $100 million a month that you're hearing that's being raised, this quarter we raised $300 million. That's special interest. That's big time special interest. And like we said on the first podcast or the second podcast, special interest better watch out because that HR 1 gets passed. They're going to be getting 6 to 1 of every dollar that's donated. And that's coming right out of our tax dollars, which they shouldn't be taxing us again. Like, what's his name said?
I don't remember.
From Fox.
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson said they shouldn't even be charging us taxes anymore because they just print the money they need.
Right.
But, special interest is going to be cut out of it soon, too. Because when you're a socialist country, the country gets poor, the people get poor,
rich.
And the only ones that make money are the ones that are in power. They don't care if the government lose money because they don't. The government, it's all about them.
You know, when I vote for someone, and I'm Jack, I'm sure you're the same way. I don't vote a person because of their color. Based on what I hear them say, and what their credentials are, and what I think they can do. It doesn't matter what color they are.
Doesn't matter what tax bracket they're in either.
Right. I don't care if they're male or female. If you can do good for me and my family, I'm going to vote for you.
Yeah, if you know what the Constitution is, if you know what you're up there to represent, if you know how to lead, you're going to get my vote.
Most of these people don't know how to lead.
If you're not afraid to declare war on a principle that you feel that this country should be going to war on, like we said last podcast, 243 times you send our military into battle, and you don't have the nerve to declare war, that's your job. Your job is to declare war. And if you're a coward, then vote no.
We've got a lot of cowards in Congress.
We got nothing but cowards.
You know. But if you're out there and you vote on color, you're just plain wrong, and we don't want you. You know, I understand we live in a divided America, and it's great that everybody has their own opinions.
Here's a question for you, Dennis. Though.
What do you have?
Who divided us?
Politicians.
Right.
The politicians all the time. You know, they want us to think we hate each other. We don't. You know.
Every time you hear them talking about division, ask yourself, who's dividing this? Why is this divided? Who's there? You know, you got to ask yourselves these questions. And that's what the press should be doing. Again, like we said, the press should be asking hard questions. Yes, that's obvious. But more important, they should be looking for the hard answer. Look for the answer. Don't take a cookie cutter answer and run with it and put it on your news. No. That's a stupid answer. I want a real answer. You have the nerve to answer me? Then answer me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Tom Rice toward the end of our podcast, and we told you we emailed him. We got a response back, and Jack's going to break it down for you. But it comes down to this. We don't hate each other like they say we do. You know, I see everyone, male, female, all races, trying to get through daily of this already difficult life. People living paycheck, just trying to survive, especially over the last year with this COVID.
Even if you are making money out there, folks, that's not a sin. You know, if you can take care of yourself, you know, the old saying goes, if you can take care of your own house, you can help somebody else with theirs.
Yep.
So, if you're in an economic spot where you're more fortunate than somebody else and you're helping your neighbor and you go, you know, whatever you do, then God bless you and thank you for that. You know, don't be ashamed of it. Don't hold your head down. Oh,
go out and make your money.
I make money. I must be a bad guy. No way. You're working hard. You're working hard. The hardest thing in the world. Now, when I got out of the police department, I was running a small business. And the hardest thing in the world to do is to produce $1. And if you don't run a business, you don't know what that means. To go and produce $1. So you're paying workers, taxes, insurance, advertisement, everything you got to pay. By the time you get $1 in your pocket, you put a week's worth of work in.
So why do we need secure voting in this country? It comes down to this. And I just looked at this stuff like last week.
This is a good point, folks. Dennis did a good job on this one.
Media outlets have stated 239 million people were eligible to vote during the last presidential election. To me, that number does not add up. Because in our country right now, we have approximately 328 million people, and about 210 million people are age 18 and plus. 210 million. I mean, Article 26 of the Constitution states 18 and over are eligible to vote. So if 239 million people voted, that's about 29 million people more than were allowed, according to how many people are eligible to vote. But they're telling us that there's no fraud.
Yeah, because we're dumb. And let me tell you something, people. They think we're dumb. We're not dumb. We
don't educate ourselves. That's
right.
The problem. We trust too much. That's our nature. We trust.
You know, if you're going to, again, we go back to the opening statement. If you're going to listen to the press tell you these things, you have to ask. I watch the news When I watch the news, you can ask my wife, if you know my wife, I watch the news with the Constitution sitting on my end table with me. Because as soon as they say something, I got to see if they're right. So when they start talking about 239 million people voted, that's over 100%. I don't think in our best days of this country, we've had 100% vote. It's always, I think the highest,
70%.
70%. So, so take 210 million, knock off 30% off of that. So now we're over 29 million people. Where did these votes come from?
I'm not sure, but they said there's no voter fraud. I don't get it. So how are we to believe that there 239 million people voted? And we'll talk about the media here in a minute because I despise the media. If 18 plus, there's only 210 million people. So 29 million people, where'd they come from? It's 29 million people that weren't registered to vote. If I'm missing something here,
and that's if 100%
right.
voted. They don't.
You know, I'm missing.
And I know they didn't because I have family members that didn't.
You know,
they didn't vote.
You know,
they have never voted.
You know, I want the media to prove me wrong because I've got to be missing something, folks. Please prove me wrong. You know, I'm sure everyone can see the problem here.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we put these states now, again, we're looking at stats that are given to us. All right, and even with the stats that they're providing with us, these favorable stats that are given to us. Now, they're doing these stats to favor what they're saying, to say, look, we're right. Look, here's the stats. So we're taking their stats, and we're looking at them at 100%. You know, so we could be off. We could be off by
10 million.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we could be off by a good solid 15%. Mm-hmm. But if you feel differently, get in touch with us. Go on Facebook, go onto our website, email us, and say, these are the numbers I came up with, so we can check too. You know, let us know where you got them from, and we'll check it, and we'll look at it, and we'll say, hey, listen, so-and-so. And if you don't want your name, we could say your region or wherever you found this from. This is what we said. We'll check into it. Everybody, all 239 people that are members on our Facebook, you check it. That's what we got to do. You know, we all got to do this.
We got to stand together. Stand together as one united front because they know they got us right now. You know, the thing is, there's voter fraud on both sides.
Yeah,
Republicans and Democrats, but they want us to believe it's the other side. Oh, the Democrats did this. Oh, the Republicans did that. We don't care what political side you're on. The problem is the politicians.
There's another division, right?
Right.
The political party.
Yep.
Remember, folks, you belong to the biggest political party that's out there.
We, the constituents. You know, like I said, the problem isn't us; it's the politicians. It's not us. And we need to take back our country. And we can do it, Jack.
Yeah, we can do it. Right at the ballot box, like you say.
Yep. We don't have to riot. We don't have to burn down buildings or anything.
All you got to do is educate yourself. And this education, you know, when we say educate yourself, we're not saying, you know, be crazy like me and Dennis are. I mean, we're out of our minds. There's something wrong with our brain.
Yeah, but it's fun.
But, you know, just look through. I mean, the Constitution is literally, I think on our website, the Constitution and the 27 amendments is 19 pages long. So read through it. And if you have a problem figuring that out, look on our book club. Read that book, The Founder's Key. If you read The Founder's Key, it explains to you exactly how to comprehend and decipher how that was written.
You know, also the Federalist Papers. That'll give you a good understanding of the first Constitutional Convention. But how do we fix the problem? I mean, we fix it through common sense voting laws, secure ballot boxes, requiring voter-verified paper ballots or records for every vote cast. We need to replace old, outdated voter machines.
Let me explain something. Again, I'm sorry, Dennis. I don't mean to keep interrupting.
No, this is good. That's what we need.
I was talking with Margaret today, and she's very, she's doing a really great job.
Yes, she is.
And she's really worried about what we're talking about. So she says, I'm in New York, Jack. What kind of politicians am I supposed to get out of New York? And I said, listen, you have some very, very good politicians. Lee Zeldin is a representative.
He's going to run for Congress or run for governor.
He's going to run for governor. And I told her, listen, write him a letter. He's not like Tom Rice. He's not like Lindsey Graham. He's not like Mitch McConnell. He's not like Chuck Schumer. You'll be able to get in touch with his office. Get in touch with his office. Tell him, listen, I've been listening to this meet at the tavern. They're talking about the Constitution. What's a list of good political up-and-comers, people in office now, local legislators, local representatives in New York? Give me a list of these people so we can vet them and we can get them elected in there. And New York, another note to you guys, if Lee Zeldin runs for governor, you need to find a congressman that's going to take those are big shoes. That man is a lieutenant colonel, I believe. War veteran, family man, representative from Long Island, and he's going to leave that congressional seat to help New York State get out of the trouble they're in. That's huge.
They're in a lot of trouble financially.
That man's taking on a big, he's set. He's set for life. He does his job the way he's supposed to be done. He can be a representative for the rest of it until he doesn't want to do it anymore. But he's willing to leave. His family is willing to leave Long Island and move upstate to Albany to run that state and get it out of trouble. Those are the people you should be looking for. California, Kentucky, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Washington, Oregon. These are the kind of representatives you want to try and get. Find a good representative, whether it's a local or federal. Find out who they know. Stop vetting these people.
And these voting issues aren't just these issues that they've been dealing with these issues for since the beginning of the Constitution.
Yeah.
But another area is we need vendor transparency. It needs to be accessible, efficient, and secure. That Old Dominion, there's something fishy there. I can't figure it out yet. But when we do, we're going to let everyone know.
Well, there's nothing to figure out. They're running the elections in Venezuela and other places. That explains everything right there.
Right.
That place. That company has more holes in it than Swiss cheese.
You don't want to hear it anymore. You don't hear Cuomo's name in the mainstream media.
I was up in New York for a week, and that man.
He's like Teflon Don.
Every road is a pothole. The state is in disarray, and all he cares about is himself. The taxes that people are paying in New York, and this man can't even get a road fixed. They just keep throwing asphalt in the holes. 3 weeks later, guess what you got? Same hole.
They just redid their budget and they upped the corporate tax or something.
Well, they want to give over $15,000 to every immigrant to come to New York. The illegal immigrants that are coming through Texas. If you come to New York as an illegal immigrant, they're going to try and give them over $15,000.
So that's your hard-earned money, folks.
Now you're wondering why you're paying $20,000 a year in property tax?
Yep, your hard-earned money going to illegal immigrants. How does that make you feel?
Should be outraged.
I know our South Carolina governors did some order today that he won't take any migrants.
Those other states, though, it's coming to you. You're going to be doing the same thing. You don't think somebody's going to follow Cuomo's lead? Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, California. They'll probably double that. They'll probably give them 30,000.
Right. So if you're in New York, you need to make sure you call your legislators and ask them where they're at with this impeachment, because they're going to let it linger, and before you know it, it's going to be over, and he's not going to be out of office. So you got to pay attention, because this is what they do all the time. Let it linger on until we forget about it.
Don't let him get voted out. Let him pay the consequence. He killed people.
Yep.
His policies took families away.
That he did.
I'll probably get put in Facebook jail for that one.
I was in Facebook jail for a day, and I don't even know what I did.
You said good morning.
One other issue before we get into our next part is, you see Biden was thinking about finishing the border wall. Did you see that?
Yeah, does he know where it goes?
I
Or is he
don't know.
building a new border wall?
It's crazy, folks.
Yeah, it's crazy because they don't know what they're doing.
Again, you see the problem? It's not the constituents, it's the politicians.
It is their problem, but it's our fault. We keep saying it. We left them there. We left them there for a long time. I mean, the present occupant of the White House has been there since I was in grade school.
Right. So,
How many dollars did he produce in his life? None.
you're right. So,
Oh, which, by the way, too, I found out a little tidbit about the Biden family. They opened up an S corporation to run their speaking fees through, so they didn't have to pay into Social Security and Medicare or Obamacare.
again, people, they're no good. They're no good. So let's talk about the mainstream media. I mean, whatever media outlet you listen to, it's your business. But take what they say with a grain of salt. With this 24-hour news cycle, they need to sell their network. You know, when they cover a story, most of these networks purposely leave out tons of words to fit their narrative, to play into emotions, getting people fired up and aggravated, especially when it comes to politics.
And that's exactly what we said at the beginning. It's harder to keep track of what they're not saying than what they're saying to us. You can listen to what they're saying, and most of the things they're saying to us are unsubstantiated, hearsay, unknown senior officials of the White House. So, like what Dennis said, what they're not saying sometimes is more dangerous than what they are saying.
You're right. Over 70% of the people believe the media is slanted and biased and feel they are part of the problem. So again, don't believe everything you hear.
Yeah, they divide us too.
Yep. There was once in a time in this country where media outlets reported the news. They did extensive research, investigative reporting. They got down to the facts and asked tough questions to our politicians. They don't do that anymore.
Well, not only do they have to ask the tough questions, like I keep saying, they need to demand the tough answers. These people don't work hard. I mean, how many of them are in their 70s and 80s?
Right.
I mean, this is not a hard job. Listen, if you're in your 80s and you're not looking to retire yet, your job's pretty sweet. Because I know every person I know that works does not want to work at 80 years old. So that means working for them is like being off.
You know what? We need an independent news agency that does its job and reports on the current state of affairs, especially our political people, because we don't get that anymore. We need to get back to investigative journalism.
That's absolutely true. That's a big statement right there.
I mean, most of our media is Democratic propaganda. And I've already said, I mean, when you control the media, we're heading towards socialism.
Well, yeah, we also said too, like if you had a politician standing there or the media anchorman, close your eyes. You don't know if that guy's an anchorman or an elected official.
You're right.
They're saying the same exact thing, verbatim, with the same outrage, the same sad story. Alligator tears, outrage. The fake outrage gets me the worst. How they get outraged.
Right. You know, the thing is, we're not China. We're not Russia. We're not North Korea. We don't need government-controlled media. We're a free society. So ask the tough questions. Get the tough answers.
Yeah.
This is our life. This is your kids' life. This is your grandkids. This is our next generation. And they're like withering away.
I tell you, the only thing that's going to help us financially is the fiat system. I never thought I would say something like that. But because the world is on a fiat system and our dollar is falling apart and our economy is falling apart, the only reason why we're not suffering is because the rest of the world is falling just as fast.
Yes, they are. So don't believe everything you hear when you listen to the media. Whether it's conservative, liberal, it Doesn't matter. They're all slanted to get what they want out of their viewers to sell themselves. They're in it to make money. They don't care what we think, what we feel, or if they ruin people along the way with false accusations like 60 Minutes in the last couple weeks did with Florida Governor DeSantis. Even Democrats came to his defense and said the story was misleading. And they really didn't care because they still haven't apologized for it.
How about the guy that worked for 60 Minutes? He won an award, prestigious award. I forget what it was because I really don't care. But he literally said on TV, on live TV, that yes, today's press is right for not giving the other side of a story. That's a guy running on 60 Minutes. He's on TV every week. He's on TV every day. Won a prestigious award and has the gall. I forget what his name is. I'll have to look up what his name was. But he won an award and literally went on TV in an interview and said, yes, the press is absolutely right for not showing the other side of an argument.
Yeah, I'm with Jack. I turned off that idiot box. I hardly ever watch TV. Like I said earlier, I don't watch sports anymore. But another issue to talk about is the Supreme Court.
Oh boy.
You know, have you seen President Biden has formed a bipartisan commission to look at the makeup of the Supreme Court? It's going to be on for 6 months, and they'll report back with their findings.
Well, first off, do you think it's bipartisan? Number one.
Absolutely not.
Let us know what you think about that. You know what we think. Number two, you know why he put this together, right? He put himself with a commission that's going to last for 6 months. Because what happens in 6 months? All right, 6 months brings us into October. So the commission hasn't been formulated yet. So you got to figure another 3 months before the commission's. So by the time the commission is formed and developed and they get their walking papers to start getting to work on this, and they do their 6 months, they are going to be into 2022. And what's happening in 2022? The midterm elections. So this is Biden's safe way of getting out of, again, talking about packing the Supreme Court, because he doesn't want to answer that question, because he's been on tape many, many decades of his career saying that's a boneheaded move. So 6 months brings you back into 2022, and it gives him an idea of what kind of representatives are running for the Senate and the representatives. So the whole House is going to be having midterms in 2022, and it gives him an idea to see who's running against his Democrats. And if it looks like the Democrats are going to lose control of both houses or one of the houses and make his job harder, can you guess what the findings are going to be on that commission?
I bet you it's going to be, we're going to leave it alone.
Exactly. But if it looks like they got strong candidates and they're going to keep those houses and maybe get a few more extra, what do you think the outcome? I can tell you right now what the outcome is going to be. Either way. And this is what I'm saying, people. They think we're stupid. Yeah, we're going to be official. We're going to make a big commission. We're going to write a book about it. We're going to have a report on it. We're going to do all kinds of legislation and smart debating over it. This is kicking the can down the road so not him, whoever's running the government right now, can decide if they have a chance. If it looks like they're going to have a strong showing from the Republicans, either you won't hear anything from that commission, it'll just disappear, and nobody's going to know what it was, because they ain't going to work on it. They don't have to work on it. It's not a bipartisan commission, number one. Number two, they're not going to do any work on it. Number three, they're going to get paid for working on it. Number four, they're going to become experts on it and be all over the news about it. And number five, whatever it looks like is what's going to be the answer.
Even Justice Ginsburg, when she was alive and on the bench, said leave it alone. Do not expand the Supreme Court. Even a current Supreme Court justice a few days ago said leave it alone. 9 is good. But they're going to look at all possible angles because they don't like the current makeup of the judges. They're going to look for terms of service, which the current justices are lifetime appointments now. But before they do that, each politician needs to look in the mirror and vote in favor of term limits on themselves, because they're most of the problem, especially when 84% of constituents want congressional term limits. It's ridiculous to put term limits on others unless you put term limits on yourself. Be leaders. You're supposed to be leaders. Be a leader and do it first. That's what leaders do. They do it before anybody else. Under the Constitution, the executive branch nominates Supreme Court justice. President Trump was fortunate enough to be able to nominate 3, and they were confirmed by the Senate. That's part of their job under the Constitution, either confirm or deny. And they confirmed each justice. The current Democratic majority is upset because they did not get their way. So instead of following the Constitution, they just want to change the Constitution to fit their needs.
Yeah, coloring out of the lines again.
Right. I mean, yeah, can they add justice? Absolutely. But is it right? No, it's not. We need leaders in Congress in Washington, D.C. that play by the rules. Most of them don't. It's actually pretty sad to watch. I mean, they seem like crybabies.
They are crybabies. They're crybabies, and they're always threatening to go home with their ball. If you don't play my game of ball, I'm going home with my ball.
Right. Jack and I are fed up with their antics. We're tired of their games. As Americans and citizens, we have the right, and we can demand they play by the rules. But we have to stick together to make that a reality. Like I said earlier, these politicians want us divided. They play into our emotions, but it's time we stand united and say enough is enough.
When you listen to this podcast and you read our Facebook and you go on our webpage and hopefully you join our group and start your own group, do not do it emotionally. Do it thoughtfully. Think about what you're doing. Think why you're doing it. Because, for me anyway, looking at what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it makes it very enjoyable. If I was doing this because I was completely in anger every day, which these politicians have given us a reason to be angry every day, I would be too fogged to comprehend what I'm trying to read and learn. Just understand that if you know the Constitution and you know why this country is the way it is, why it's a republic, and you do it factually and not emotionally, you will learn better, you will understand faster, and you will get involved much more.
We're about $30 trillion in debt. And these politicians every day are adding more and more. But it's only going to end when we say enough. I mean, look back at the Declaration of Independence. One of the reasons to get away from British rule was he made judges dependent on his will alone for their tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. So basically, the Democratic Party is trying to get judges in office that are liberal and do what they will say. It's wrong. It was wrong back then. It's wrong now. We don't need any new judges. We don't need any new justices. The problem is, each state we live in, no matter if you're in Texas, California, New York, or here in South Carolina, we the people have given too much power to our elected officials. And it's time to take away that power of the federal government and get it back in the hands of us, where it belongs. Our founding fathers of this great country, with their immense knowledge and wisdom, realized that eventually the government would be too big and people in higher office try and hold on to power and never voluntarily step down from office.
Yeah, well, when they got the Constitution finished and it was voted on, there's a saying, a woman had asked Benjamin Franklin on the way out of the meeting, what kind of government did you make? And he said, a republic if you're able to keep it. Think about that for a minute.
Right.
A republic if you're able to keep it. Folks, we are on that razor blade setting. We are ready to go on either side. Our debt is out of control. Our school is wrong. Our country is divided on every aspect. The only thing we have in common is that we are all constituents. So whoever you believe in, and again, we always say all the time, if you don't believe in the Constitution, tell us where it is wrong. Because you did years and years worth of work to figure out a different type of government. What are you willing to replace this government with that's going to be better for the minority party than what we have now?
This Constitution has been tried and tested for 200 plus years.
2 world wars.
Yep.
Depression. A couple of depressions.
So how do we take back that power? And hopefully you downloaded the Constitution from our website. and it's under Article 5. It states Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislature of 2/3 of several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislature of 3/4 of several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof. All right, so go back and read that. We can take back this power we voluntarily given our federal officials. All we have to do is contact our state legislatures, and we can do this. The people run each state. Well, we can do this. We can demand to our state legislature that we want our congressional leaders to have term limits, as well as our local representatives to have term limits too.
Well, here's something that we were going to say later on, but Dennis is right. It should be said here. Later on, when we get into Article 1, Section 8, it shows how the state's rights were taken away from us. But we are here today. This is the place we are today. And Congress, they don't know what they're supposed to do. So maybe this is the link, the weak link in the chain. So since our federal government doesn't know how to lead, doesn't know how to legislate, doesn't know how to pass bills, doesn't know how to govern, doesn't know how to do their job in declaring war or not, they don't know how to make bills, they don't know how to do anything. Bureaucracies and special interests are doing their job. So, since they don't know what they're doing, maybe if we can get good state representatives, if we can do our grassroots work now, get our state legislators in there to get our sovereignty back from the federal government, smart state legislators to get the sovereignties that we had lost in Section 8 of Article 1. Eventually those legislators, those local legislators will become federal legislators. And if they start taking back some of the state sovereignty, we the people will become much, much stronger than we are today.
So like we said, we need to start in the state legislatures. And if they refuse, we vote them out of office. We can vote these state legislators out. We can do it. It's going to take a little bit of time, but if we all stick together, we can get there. It only takes 2/3 of the states to get a constitutional convention.
Listen, this is how long we have to do this. The rest of our life. We have the rest of our life to take care of this and give our children a better government than what we got handed to us. Okay? And like Margaret said, I live in a state where there's not very many good legislators. But there is. Get in touch with the ones that are. Those are the ones that answer you back. Those are the ones that listen to their constituents and they will write back to you without a cookie cutter response.
We get them a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
thank you, Lindsey Graham.
We can change this monstrosity of the federal government. We can take back our country from these tyrants. We can reel them in, and we'll start here in South Carolina. I mean, I believe some states have already in the process of doing what we're just talking about. I mean, voice your opinion. Don't take no for an answer. If they say no, let's find people to say yes. We have the power, not them.
There are people out there that are willing to work hard for you. They get compensated. They have good returns on it. It's not a job that they're going to do for free. All they need to do is have a work ethic and go into office and understand who their boss is. We're their boss.
Yep.
We are the bosses. If you never ran anything in your life, it doesn't matter. You are running the government. That's a big thing. Don't sell yourself short. It's 19 pages of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
You know, the government belongs to we the people, not these lackluster politicians
Hack.
who only care about power and special interests. You know, 56% of people wish we had a third party that will fight for their own for our interest and not special interest. I think it needs to be a serious discussion because this two-party rule is getting out of hand, and I've been saying it for years. We need a third party.
I tell you what, you know, we throw around special interests a lot. We don't exactly know who they are. We should start looking into that. But you guys are not safe anymore either. The closer you get to socialism, the less relevant you are. And you want to know something? All of those millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions that your company spent in your special interest will come to an end because every business, large and small, will be run by this government.
Yep, more than 70% of people believe our government is dysfunctional. And Washington politicians don't govern with the consent of the people.
They consent with they govern with the emotion of the people.
You know, I mean, what are your thoughts on a third party? I mean, let us know. I mean, we'll do what we'll. If we need to start a third party, we'll start one. We need something different because the current two-system political isn't not working.
We love feedback. It's a challenge. You know, it's a lot of fun. When you give us something to look up, we tear into it.
Yes, we do. You know, we're just fed up, and I think most of the people listening to us they're fed up too. You know, that's why we started this constitutional group. I mean, Jack approached me 6 months ago, and it was a great idea. And he came up with this podcast, and like I said before, I was a little nervous, but it's actually fun now. You know, but Congress needs to operate under the guidelines of the United States Constitution. That is for the people, by the people, not congressional leaders and lobbyists. Trump made a lot of things clear. We need to drain the swamp from all this corruption, all this deceit, and all these lies.
Press is part of it.
Yep, the media is. Wake up, people. They're trying to steal our country away from us, and we're just letting them do it without a fight. We fought too hard for what we have. Let's not give it away without a fight. Let's take it back. It's ours.
Yeah, so listen, don't forget to listen to this podcast. Join the podcast. And don't forget to go to USCG National 2021 at the GoDaddySites.com. Start your own. Join one already. Whatever's going to bring your part of the world together, do it.
Yeah, during our last two podcasts, we've talked about Article 1, Sections 1 through 6. So go back and listen to them again if you haven't. And give us some feedback. And like I said, hopefully you download it so you can follow along. So this week we're going to stay in Article 1 and go over Sections 7 and 8. So Section 7 states all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments. As on other bills, the Senate can also introduce legislation when asked to go to the House. So both houses can pass a bill, and then it goes sent to the President. And within 10 days, he shall either vote yes or veto it. And if he vetoes it, congressional leaders can take necessary steps to override it by 2/3 of the House.
All right. So what it doesn't say in Section 7 is that it is broken down into three parts. The thinking of our founding fathers was they're going to break it down into these three parts. And I get these broken down layman's term, so to speak, in a webpage called Interactive Constitution. So if you want to see how I figure these things out, that's how. So there are three different clauses that's supposed to keep Congress in line. The first one is originating clause. This requires that all bills for raising revenue to originate in the House of Representatives. The second clause is the presentment clause. And that requires that all the laws be presented to the President for his signature or his veto. And the third clause is the presentment of resolution clause. And this is supposed to prevent Congress from sidestepping the present clause where the President has to see each bill. And these channels were for lawmakers, so they would go through this process to promote diligent and the wisdom of any new legislation. So they were supposed to debate all of these bills. Anything that goes through Congress was supposed to go through the House, both houses, and they were supposed to debate them, and then they were supposed to vote on them. And debate brings knowledge, and then it's sent to the President. Now, if the President and his staff, the executive staff, don't agree with it, they would veto it and send it back. And they would have to try and now get 2/3 votes to get it put in there. The president also has a thing, it's called a pocket veto. And I think the last one to do it was James Madison, because he has to get that signed and back to them in 10 days. Well, they tried to do a little quickie on him, and they adjourned both houses. And he wasn't able to get it back in 10 days. So automatically, that bill was thrown out because they didn't give him an opportunity to send the bill back within 10 days. So it was vetoed automatically. If one house comes back, there's no pocket veto. That went to court, and you can't do it. But what we're saying is, we think that the House of Congress is getting rid of the presentment clause by making bureaucracies pass these laws and special interests to write the bills. So nobody can read them when the special interest does it. And when the bureaucracies pass the law, nobody even knows what the law is. So it doesn't, nobody signs off on it. The representatives, the Senate, or the president. And there is where we lost a lot of power. The minute the Supreme Court sided with Congress and said, well, they gave the power of lawmaking and bill writing to these institutes, then it's favorable. They consented to it.
We've talked about
So,
the confusing bills.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But, that's a lot to take in. But that's what that clause was. It was 3 clauses built into one for checks and balances. And over time, like usual, these lazy politicians figured an end around. So nobody has to take care of it. And these courts go with. So maybe we should try and amend that. Maybe we should try and amend Section 7. That even though bureaucracy is passes a law, that law still has to go through both houses and see the president. And if you write a 6,000-page bill because you let your special interest do it, well, you better get your reading glasses on because nobody's allowed to sign it until they read it from cover to cover.
Yeah, okay. But we've put a couple of bills on our website to show you how confusing they are. And like I said, if you don't have a law degree, it's very confusing. But take a look at it. Let us know what you think. But Section 8 of Article 1 is very long. A lot of information. It's the enumerated powers for Congress. And they shall have the power to lay and collect taxes and exercise to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties imposed on excises shall be in uniform throughout the United States.
Yeah, okay.
To borrow on the credit of the United States. I know Jack's going to talk about this one a lot. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among several states. And with the Indian tribes, they're failing on a lot of these issues. Especially this one. Uniform rule of naturalization. And uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. We've said it before. There are laws on the books that need to be followed for migrants to become citizens. We can't have open borders. It's violating that law.
Illegal immigrants should never become citizens.
Right. There's a proper process they must go through to come here. We want people to come to this country. We've said it before. We want a diverse United States. It makes us better and stronger. But when it's not done the right way, especially with this president and the vice president and the Democratic majority, they're failing in those laws.
Yeah. So what I got out of Section 8 is you have to read it and you have to go to that website because it's about enumerated power in federalism. All right, so we live in a federalist government. So basically what Section 8 is saying is, where does the power start with Congress and end? And where does the power for the state start and end? So there was 4 times in the country's history that this enumerated power of federalism has changed dramatically. The first one was post-founding. All right, so that's obvious. They're still trying to figure out everything. They're still trying to color inside the lines of the picture in the coloring book. The second one was post-Civil War. Now that's obvious. We knew we had to make changes, and we had to make changes quickly and right. So, and then another one, the third one. The third one's the biggest one. The third one is the most damaging, and that's post-New Deal. Post-New Deal was under FDR. When he got elected, it was in the middle of the Depression. He wanted to pack the courts. He made the government 100,000 people strong. That means when he got elected, by the time he got elected and by the time he passed away in office, the federal government, to run each branch of government, ballooned up to 100,000 employees. Who knows what it is today? We should look that up. And he had put in all of these things through commerce. Everything was through commerce, so that today they had put what your kids learn in school through the commerce law, what they eat in school, how much you get paid, how much truck drivers are allowed to get paid, how much product goes for, how much you pay for your insurance. Every single thing you do in life has been changed from the New Deal through the commerce law to get rid of the enumerated powers of federalism. The fourth one was Rehnquist Court. He was a Supreme Court justice that was put in there in 1986. And he went and he overthrew a lot of these commerce problems. And he's the one that brought forth the question. Where is Congress power start and begin, and where the states? He was able to give the state back a lot of their sovereignty and their power. This, folks, is what we were talking about before. It is our turn to take our sovereignty back. And when I say sovereignty, I mean the power of the government needs to be returned to us through the state, through strong state legislators. And remember, when you elect these strong state legislators, they're going to correct your state, they're going to get your power back to your state, and just like everything else, they're going to move to the federal government and get elected in there. Those are the people we want. That's how this grassroots starts. You start your grassroots by getting these clubs together, like we said. Stay with your community, join your clubs, whatever they are. And once you start learning, if you belong to a Second Amendment club and you see all the other amendments that you're losing and how much power you're losing through the Constitution, it will blow you away. Your eyes will be wide open like saucer pans. And that's what's going to get you involved in something like what we're doing right now.
Right. Hey, we're not going to go over every single clause in Section 8, but just a few that stick out to us. And one is establish post offices and post roads, which our federal government is failing. The post office is billions of dollars in debt from mismanagement and too much bureaucracy. You know, they declare war. We talked about that last week. The president does not have the authority to declare war. Only Congress can.
And they don't.
To raise and support armies. To provide and maintain a navy. I read a couple weeks ago that China is now the biggest navy in the world. But I did read Biden wants to increase the defense budget by 1.7%. So we'll see where that money's going to go.
Unfortunately, I hear rumors. I don't know if it's true. I guess we're going to have to wait and see if it comes out. But a lot of that money that's going to go to the United States military is going to be funneled into green energy.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders is a little upset about that one. And a couple of the progressives, they don't want money to go to defense.
That was the first key that we thought was going to go to green energy because Bernie Sanders only complained for one day.
Yeah, they want social programs. They don't want a strong defense. We need a strong defense in today's world. You know, to make rules for the government and regulation of land and naval forces. To make all laws which will be necessary and proper for carrying out to execution the foregoing powers. They have so much responsibility, they don't know what to do with it all.
I don't think they know the responsibilities they have. I think they're kids in a candy store, and they think they are higher than thou.
I think you're right there. I mean, I've said this before, knowledge is power. And I was at work last week, and one visitor came in. You know what she said? Knowledge is power. And it brought me back to this. Because the more we educate ourselves, the better decisions we can make. Not just for voting, but for everyday decisions. The more we learn, the better we are. Jack, I've said several times, and we're looking for producers to help us with this information. So like Jack said before, it's only him and I. So if you have any ideas to help us, if you're in Myrtle Beach, Surfside, Merle's Inlet, Socastee, look us up. We can use the help.
I tell you what, even if you're out of state with the new, I don't know what they call it, we can talk to each other on a computer. It's like sitting next to each other. We do have one other person, that's Margaret. She's taking care of that Facebook, and she's working hard on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, but as far as, again, we offered Margaret the producer job. She turned us down. So we said, okay, we accept it, but you got to do this then. I don't know how to do it. And we said, you'll figure it out. So we're all figuring it out together.
But hope we can see that everyone can see how important the Constitution is, and why we consider it probably the best document ever written in our history. Our founders had so much wisdom; they could foresee what was happening in the future.
The first day they passed it, Benjamin Franklin says, "We passed a republic if you can keep it."
Right.
Holy mackerel!
We've just barely scratched the surface regarding the Constitution, and I know Jack wanted to talk about. We wrote Congressman Rice, who's a congressman in our district. We asked him two questions. The first one was, is Biden spending $86 million to house migrants in hotels and paying them food? And the other one is about why he voted for impeachment. So he finally sent us a letter back, and he only answered one of the questions. Of course, they don't. Typical politician. They steer away from the question. So, Jack?
You think I'm going to read the whole letter if you think...
Yeah, go ahead.
We have time for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's important.
So it goes. Dear Mr. Gravel, that's Dennis. Thank you for contacting me regarding the 2020 election and presidential impeachment. I appreciate you taking the time to inform me of your thoughts on this issue. The 2020 presidential election was one of the most divisive election campaigns in my lifetime. And our country remains divided, thanks to you. But that was a side thought. I'm sorry. Allegations of fraud have further increased the partisan divide and mistrust in election results. Now, who's doing that? Who's doing the increased partisan divide?
Politicians.
Right. So he's in office talking about partisan divide. Well, you believe it. So it goes on. I believe that for the United States to remain a truly free country, we must ensure that the right to vote and the ability to participate in our democracy is protected for all citizens. Who are you to believe? We didn't send you up there to believe. We sent you up there to represent. So if we don't tell you we believe, then you shouldn't believe. And you shouldn't be telling me what you believe. You should be asking me, what do you believe? President Trump, he continues, President Trump was entitled to an investigation to ensure that every legal vote was counted. And I don't believe that. I don't think that was done. I think it was finished. They didn't give him an opportunity. Nobody would hear his case. And the reason why they wouldn't hear his case was because Congress voted to uphold the election. Period. I signed on the state of Texas brief to the Supreme Court to make certain of a free and fair election and uphold the clear authority of state legislators to establish the manner by which electors are appointed. Now, I want to ask Mr. Tom Rice, how many times did he talk to our state legislators? Because I spoke to one. And he told me how many times he speaks to our federal election.
0.
Right. They don't even have his phone number. All right, so where was I? Clearly state legislators. Yeah, right. Okay. Next paragraph. On January 6, 2021, I joined a number of Republican colleagues in objecting to the electoral votes of 5 states. So I want to ask him, under whose authority did you join a number of Republican colleagues to object to the electoral votes of 5 states? Because if you're not talking to your state legislator, you don't know what your state constitutions want you to do. What if we didn't want you to do that? All right? Apparently, I think we probably did. But again, you're assuming. So that was period on that. That was the first sentence of the second paragraph. This was a decision that I weighed heavily and waited until the last moment to complete. Period. All right? So, first off, under whose authority did you weigh this heavily? Sir, Mr. Tom Rice, you are not supposed to weigh anything heavily. We, your constituents, your boss, are supposed to weigh these things heavily and let you know how you're supposed to. This is not your state. You work for us. You have the ability to weigh nothing heavily. You have the ability to come and speak to us, the constituents, and let us weigh it heavily and let you know. All right, where was I? In the end, and after much consideration, 2 documents cemented my decision. Your decision. What constituents? I mean, this is in the middle of the sentence. I'll finish the sentence. My decision to object. Okay? Period. So what constituents did you decide with?
He didn't talk to me.
He didn't talk to nobody. He didn't even talk to our state legislators. So come on, Mr. Tom Rice. What are we doing here? All right. Period. A letter from the President of the Pennsylvania State Senate objecting to their own electoral vote, and letter from Vice President Pence, which laid out his view of the role of Congress in the approval of the Electoral College process. So far, I am 2.5 paragraphs in there, Mr. Tom Rice, and I have not heard one constituent mentioned. You have a senator from another state, you had the vice president, you have yourself, you weighed heavily, you joined, you did all these things. So far I haven't heard anybody from South Carolina in your decision making. All right, where was I again? Electoral votes on the president, which hold on a minute, I gotta find the president.
Can you see how important this is?
Yeah, hold on a minute.
This is we're trying to get at is they're not talking to us. They don't care what we think. They only care about themselves. That's the funny part.
Okay. So
but we let them get away with it.
Yeah. So here we go. So he continues. This was not about overturning a federalizing election, but to ensure that our country follows an accountable process that complies with the Constitution. So, Mr. Thomas Rice, I'd like to know if you even know which article and section you're talking about here. So, period. Ongoing. Even knowing it would be defeated, it was apparent to me, it was apparent to him, that the right thing to do was to object and participate in the debate. So, why did you vote for impeachment then? All right, he's going to get into that. But even knowing it would be defeated, how did you know it was going to be defeated, number one?
He had a crystal ball.
It was apparent to him, apparent to me. So far he's talked about me, vice president, and another senator. No state legislators did he speak to. He mentioned the state legislator, but he didn't talk to any of them. All right, so that's period. Next paragraph, paragraph number 4. The actions of the violent mob that descended on the Capitol were unlawful and an attempt to disrupt the electoral certification, period. At President Trump's rally that day and for the weeks leading up, he told his supporters that if Republicans in Congress fought hard enough, that he would get another 4 years in the House. How do you know that? How do you know that he would have got another 4 years? How do you know that this is what was going on? So, period. That was an outright lie, and he knew it. How did he know that that was a lie? Because he hasn't spoken to a state legislator yet. He hasn't talked to his constituents yet. He has spoken to a senator from another state and the vice president of the United States. And so far, the only person that he's conferred with is himself. Moving on. Even worse, he led people to believe that the former vice president could unilaterally overturn the election. So, Mr. Tom Rice, you didn't ask me if I believed in that. So I don't know how you can write something like that when you didn't ask me. So, period. That was also a lie. Period. Our nation is better than the violence displayed in our Capitol that day. And that's true. But we don't know who started the violence and who orchestrated it. Okay, next paragraph. I was on the floor of the House of Representatives when the rioters were beating on the door with tear gas, zip tie restraints, and pipe bombs in their possession. I think that's a lie. I don't remember hearing anybody, I didn't see any pictures of any weapons that were discovered. Period. The Capitol was under siege and the Capitol Police were being beaten and killed while the President was watching on TV and tweeting about the Vice President's lack of courage. So we still don't know what that officer died from. All right, Mr. Tom Rice? Maybe you know, but you don't talk to your constituents, so we don't know. So, period. The President was tweeting that his Vice President was a coward at the same time the Vice President and his family were being hurried to safety among the chants of "Hang Mike Pence." Period. Members of Congress called President Trump requesting assistance and urged him to calm the mob and stop the attack. I would like to know who. Who called the President? I don't know. You know, I don't know of one elected official that had a hand laid on them. And unlike the true riots that were going on all over the country, people's businesses, homes, and their personal safety was destroyed. President Trump's inaction while the United States Capitol was ransacked and 6 people lost their lives, including 2 police officers. Well, we looked it up. That led him to vote for the impeachment. The 2 officers passed away, unfortunately, and I'm not belittling anybody's death on any of this, but those 2 officers, they took their own life. Next paragraph. Please visit my website, RiceHouse.gov, for more information on the issues facing South Carolina and our nation. There you can also sign up and receive a weekly email for regular updates on what I'm doing in the Grand Strand PD in Washington, D.C. Follow me. Excuse me, sir, but I should not be following you. You, on the other hand, you can follow your constituents by listening to this program at Meet at the Tavern. So here's our letter back from this man. Never once did he call any of his constituents about anything that happened on January 6th, the election in November of 2020, the future of our republic. He never spoke to a state legislator. He never spoke to a constituent of South Carolina.
Can you see the problem here, people? They were silent all last summer on the riots. I don't think we heard once from Congressman Rice denouncing it, anything. Didn't sponsor any legislation. We've talked about the legislation he sponsored last week. But once it affected them personally, that's when they felt they had to do something. So that's just showing you right then and there that they feel they're more important than you, Jack, and myself.
When their ass is on the line, they'll cry foul.
So just think about that, folks. They don't care about anyone but themselves. So I just want to talk about the Second Amendment and the U.S. Bill of Rights. And we'll talk about more about that in our future podcast, but it's in the news right now, and I think we should talk about it for a quick second. In the Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We have a lot of gun enthusiasts in this country, and I myself am a supporter of it. But the Democratic majority is trying to make it more difficult for us to keep this right. Both Democrats and Republicans want the right to bear arms. It should not even be an issue. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. It doesn't matter what kind of gun you like. You should be allowed to carry whatever you want. That's our right under the Constitution. But I know President Biden signed a couple of executive order, regarding your rights under this. You know, we've told you, Jack and I, we live here in Myrtle Beach. We love it down here. And in the House, South Carolina House, and it's gone to the Senate now. State Senate. They've sponsored a bill for open carry. Contact your state senator if you're in South Carolina and tell them you're in favor of this bill. It's something that, one part I don't like is the House bill doesn't cover training. I think you should be trained. We know everybody doesn't like guns, and that's fine. That's your right. I mean, the Constitution applies to all of us, no matter which way you vote. So I emailed our state senator, Mr. Russell Fry, and to voice support.
He's a good man.
Jack has met him. He's talked about him a couple times. I think open carry ends up saving lives in the long run. I mean, he said the only part I don't like is you should be trained, whether it's through the NRA or state sponsor. It doesn't matter. In order to carry it, the current bill doesn't have that, and I would ask, and I did, that he put it in there.
I know having open carry. A lot of people, I don't like the hidden gun. All right, I think if you're going to carry a gun, it should be open. So that way,
everybody knows you have one.
Law enforcement knows what they're against, and I know that's a bad word in this country right now because there are certain states that don't want any law enforcement. But when my law enforcement with New York state laws it made my job easier because I knew if you didn't know the Pope, you didn't have a carry permit. So if you were carrying a gun and you weren't one of me, you were a bad guy. So it was either good guys or bad guys had guns. Now, if you would open that up to an open carry permit where it had to be on the outside, as I'm approaching you, I already know you have a weapon. And hands should be away from it. So now there's safety around for everybody. Except for the bad guy. Alright? If the bad guy sees that you have an open carry and you're carrying that, and he's planning on stealing that grocery store, robbing it, but one of the customers has an open carry permit and he's carrying that weapon, you think he's going to the next one? I do.
So we're going to end our podcast for this week. So just want to end up, my closing statement is this. We, the constituents, can choose two things. The first one, which I feel is the right path, is to stand together, build a solid foundation, grow our membership, and become actively involved in our communities. We can do this if we all stick together. We can't do it alone. We have a lot of work to do, but Jack and I are up for the challenge. The second path we can take is just roll over and let these politicians walk all over us and get away with everything they've gotten away with for the past 40 years. There comes a time in our lives when we must choose that our actions will make this country better than it already is. We live in a great country. Let's make it better. Again, education is key to getting where we want from these politicians. And standing united is the only way to achieve success. So please join us and save our country for the next generation.
I have a little closing statement, and it goes to the greatest generation during World War II. And a big part of the reason why it was the greatest generation was because they had great leaders. And in all positions, do I trust in everything that was done back then? No, I don't. But these men that went and fought World War II knew they had the backing of their country and their elected representatives. So it was the last time they declared war the way they're supposed to, with an actual declaration of war to get rid of the evils of the world. And the greatest generation stepped up and did it through their own sacrifice. Many not coming home, many not coming home the right way, and none of them talking about it. They did their job, they took care of business, they came home and lived their life. Thank you to them and the people that led them. We don't have that now. We have a great military that goes and fights the fight that we can't. And they do it for us with a rudderless ship and nobody at the helm. It makes it even harder for them. So God bless them. God bless the greatest generation. God bless America. And do your part. It's grassroots. Start with the states. We went through the whole thing today.
All right, we'll see you next week at the tavern.